My biggest fear of blowing out my knee at jujitsu happened. I was rolling with someone, he had me in modified mount, and as I was going to shrimp out from it and pull my knees in between his leg and mine, he grabbed my ankle, yanked it back and up, and partially tore my MCL. I thought it was just an MCL tear because that's the same pain that you get from a heel hook, and that's what I felt. But as I later found out, that move also fully ripped my ACL as well, which meant that I would probably need to go for surgery. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the things that I wish I had done differently, as well as what the experience has been like. In terms of what I wish I had done differently, one is definitely going to the hospital the night of or the day after. That was something really foolish from my end. Right after the injury occurred, I felt pain, but I was still able to walk around, and so figured that it was probably just an MCL tear. The other thing was that I was afraid that spending so much time at the hospital would be a waste, just to confirm my suspicions that it was just an MCL tear. But if I had gone to the hospital, I would have probably been seen, because it wasn't just a seeming sickness or a common cold, but an actual acute injury to my knee. I would have been diagnosed faster, and I would have also discovered what I needed to watch out for, i.e. making sure that the other ligaments and parts of my knee are not damaged further, which I think I did inadvertently by trying to stretch my leg out as much as possible and go for runs just to see if my knee was solid. The thing about an ACL tear is once that happens, your knee becomes less stable. Some people feel like it'll give out, other people don't, but most people who have ACL tears go on to develop other issues with their knee, like tears in their meniscus, because the meniscus ends up taking on more of the pressure that the ACL was taking on. If I had gone and gotten myself diagnosed at the hospital the night of or the day after, then I could have found out earlier on what to watch out for and probably do less damage to my knee. It's been a couple of weeks since then, and I do feel pain when I walk now with my meniscus, and I just keep wondering if that was completely avoidable. So that really sucked. The other thing about being diagnosed accurately as early as possible is that you get more time to research all the alternatives out there. Surgery is definitely the most common procedure undergone when you have a full ACL rupture, but there was and is this protocol in Australia where there is no surgery and you just have to put your leg in a brace for like 5 or 6 weeks at 90 degrees. It's new, but I think if I had found out earlier about that, I would have tried to do it myself, even though I'm not a doctor and I don't know what I'm doing. But it would have been a good idea to bring up such a protocol with the doctors that I was seeing and decide whether that could be something I could try out or not. And that would have only happened if I had diagnosed the issue earlier by going to the hospital. So that was my biggest regret, was pushing through the pain and just going home and then pretending like it was just another injury that I could probably heal from. So I wish I had gone to the hospital. One other thing that the doctors, one other regret that I had was not booking the next available opportunity to meet with the doctors. So I live in Calgary, Canada, and we have socialized healthcare. That means there's usually longer wait times and it's harder to see specialists. This manifests in hospitals where you can go to a hospital and you might have to wait just 1 hour or to see a doctor, or you might have to wait 8 hours to see a doctor. I've known people who've had to wait 10, 12 hours just before they see a doctor because they take people on the basis of their urgency, and they're always understaffed. So there was this opportunity to go to the acute knee injury clinic at the University of Calgary, which is the best in the city at least, and perhaps the province. And there was this opening. It was Saturday, and I had applied, and they sent me on Monday a invite to come to the clinic, and you could book when you wanted to go. And they had openings the day after on Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. And the next bookings after those were the week after on Monday and Tuesday. I, on Monday, started writing a note to my boss and to my colleagues and to someone who I had a meeting with the next morning that I would have to cancel so I could go to this meeting. But by the time that I had written all of that and sent it, or written all of that, those opportunities went. Those 2 time slots for the day after had gone. And again, I missed an opportunity to get my knee diagnosed correctly. So if I could go back, I would tell myself to prioritize the well-being of my knee and to put that before other things like my job, because you're going to have the same knee for the rest of your life. You want to make sure that it's well taken care of. And if it's injured, that it is addressed as soon as possible. Whereas a job you might have for 1, 2, 3 years and that's it. It's just, it was not farsighted of me to have missed that opportunity to get diagnosed earlier. And then in terms of the emotions that I have felt, it has been a complete whirlwind. Jiu-jitsu has played a big part of my life for the past 4 years. I have done it basically every day for the past 4 years, except on those days when I was recovering from a sickness or I was recovering from an injury. And for that to be taken out of my life so abruptly has been a bit of a shock. It's been depressing. I really miss training with people and I miss hanging out with them. And it's also been isolating because I work remotely. So all of the social interaction that I would get came from the sports that I did. And now that I have an injury, it's a lot harder to just hang out with people when you're not actually training with them or swimming with them. And furthermore, you also aren't exercising, which is one of those antidepressants that really makes a difference. So it's quite sad, let's say, to be going through all of this, because the social support systems that I had in place and the people who I most enjoyed spending time with are people I don't have as much of an opportunity to do so anymore with because of this injury. So that sucks. The other emotion that I really felt a lot of was anxiety. It kind of feels the same way doom scrolling feels, where instead of scrolling through Twitter to see what the latest updates about something terrible were, you instead scroll through all of the literature on ACL reconstruction outcomes and arthritis outcomes and corollary issues outcomes, and all of these different scientific studies pop up, and you just feel the need to read through everything before making up your mind about how you should be moving forward and being treated and what you should be asking your doctor, all of that. And I think it really consumed me for the first couple of weeks, where all I was doing was reading nonstop, but I was not taking down notes. I was not looking at things critically. I was definitely going through grief and looking for solutions, and my mind has changed on whether I should get surgery or not in the past few weeks. But I think one thing I wish I had done differently was to treat it like a research project, just like any other. When you're writing a big essay for university, like a thesis, you write down your questions and then you are diligent with the notes that you write down, and then after writing down those notes, you try and answer those questions based on the newfound knowledge you have. Otherwise, you just have all of these studies and statistics whirling around in your head, and you have no way of categorizing them and deciding which ones are worthwhile listening to and going forward with. So I think that's something that I will need to do in the upcoming weeks, because it is an important question. And even though ACL reconstruction surgery is minimally invasive, it will take about a week of my energy to take. I'll have to take off a week from work, and that's going to be a lot. And it's also something that can fail. So that's another question. What are the benefits of surgery that would be granted to me, assuming that I couldn't get those benefits without surgery? Is it worthwhile to do the surgery? And then ACL reconstruction surgery generally means that you are off the mats for a year, and you're probably not going to be doing exercise like running and swimming for 6 to 8 months after your surgery. And you're still going to feel like there's something off about your knee after the surgery. So there are all of these downsides to it that you have to think through. And it's hard to do that when you're just reading a lot and you don't have an outlet for all of that. So what I would have told myself earlier is try and write an essay and keep detailed notes about all of the things that you're reading, and compartmentalize the study so that you're not thinking about it nonstop when you're at work or when you're talking with friends or you're doing anything. You have to make sure that it stays within its realm of chaos, and you don't overheat thinking so much about it. I definitely had a couple of nights where I went to bed with headaches because I was reading so much and thinking about it so much, just like my thesis in university. So that's the second emotion that I felt: depression, anxiety from all of the possibilities and options. And then the third that I'll talk about is definitely grief. There are different stages of grief. I think they can happen all at the same time. So I think there's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I think those are the five. And I've definitely felt all of them. We've talked about depression. I also think denial was a big one for me. Within the first 2 weeks, I was like, there's no way this is right. Or I didn't even know that my ACL was injured. And maybe that might have been because I wasn't paying attention to my knee enough. And that's one thing with jiu-jitsu, where you spend so much time in these uncomfortable positions that are somewhat painful, that when something injurious happens to you, you don't recognize it quickly enough because it just feels very similar to all of the other injuries that you've had or the other discomfort you've had. It's kind of like how scuba divers can drown underwater after holding their breath for 5 minutes because they're so used to the sensation of not breathing underwater that they can't tell when they've crossed that uncrossable threshold that would kill them. And so denial was an emotion that I felt for the first 2 weeks. And then even after that, I was like, what if the doctors are wrong and I've just partially torn my ACL? Or what if I don't need surgery and I just do physiotherapy and that will stabilize my knee? And these are still questions that are up in the air that you can only come to terms with by doing your own research and talking with experts and debating within yourself and with others what would be the right path for you. So denial is one. Anger is definitely one too, but it's also like existential shock where you're training with these people. The moves that they're using on you are not moves that you could have seen coming. I mean, you just don't expect it. Like, I could see my knee being broken or blown out from a heel hook or from someone jumping at it the wrong way. But from the bottom of mount, when someone pulls it, that just seems so arbitrary and random that you kind of have to stop and think, like, what the heck? Why did that even happen? Why? There's no answer out there, and you can't blame anyone for that failure. So I guess that leads to some of the irrational anger where you just feel like you've been taken advantage of and you've been hurt, and you have been hurt, but you can't place that blame or anger on anyone else. There's just no outlet for it. And so I think right now what I've been trying to do is to focus on the positive and to focus on the silver lining of this change in my life, which is that I have more time to dedicate myself to learning the skills that I've been trying to learn for a while. Those would be learning to program and learning to build microsasses and to indie hack. So I've gotten a chance to do that. I've gotten a chance to meet many people who I've found to be really friendly. I've been going to networking events and hackathons that I now have time for because usually I'd be going to jiu-jitsu in the evening. And I've been trying to take full advantage of my newfound injury to use that time that I didn't have before to do things that I otherwise wouldn't have prioritized. So I think that so far has been the silver lining. I get to do things that I've been meaning to do before. There's also the downsides and all the fears and the worry about, will I have arthritis in 10 to 15 years? Will I ever go back to the mats? Should I ever go back to jiu-jitsu? All of that. But I think the thing that I'm trying to keep in mind is that you're mortal and there's a risk to everything that you do. And I am eternally grateful for the things that jiu-jitsu has taught me. And I think that those things are what's going to get me through this injury. I would like to go back, and when I go back, I will be rolling differently. I will be more considerate of how people can damage me and harm me, even if they don't intend to. And I'll be more cautious, but it's going to be a rough road ahead. And I guess I'll keep posting videos on what I've learned through the process. So yeah, it's been about 3 weeks now since the injury, and I'm doing a lot better. I've started to come to terms with the injury, and we'll see how things hold up. Thanks for watching.